The next oration, I would like to call the chairpersons. Dr. Vasant Kumar, who is the Senior Consultant Physician and Diabetologist at Apollo Hospital, Hyderabad. And Dr. Shashank Joshi, Padma Shri Awardee, Senior Endocrinologist at Mumbai.
So our awardee today for the Y. Subbarao oration is Professor Vijay Vishwanathan. We all know that Professor Vijay Vishwanathan is the president of the Professor M. Vishwanathan Diabetes Research Center, current president of RSSDI, president of the Global Society for Diabetic Food called DFood International. In fact, we should put our hands together because he's the first person from India to be the president of the World Body for Diabetic Food. Dr. Vishwanathan has played a very pivotal role in shaping policies, mentoring future diabetologists, spearheading research, influencing clinical practice globally. His leadership for prestigious organizations globally in significantly advancing diabetes care is well known. Dr. Vishwanathan's journey is nothing short of inspiring. With a career spanning over 4 decades, he has revolutionized diabetes treatment, research and education not only in India but across the world. But his seminal contributions are in diabetic foot care, where he championed tirelessly and has saved more than 100,000 limbs, preventing amputation and restoring dignity for those affected. He established the first clinic of diabetic foot clinic in India and the first school of podiatry in India, which is a benchmark in management of diabetic complications. His dedication has led to more than 500 plus research publications, numerous book chapters, various orations, but he has got global awards. He was the first awardee of the American Diabetic Association's Vivian Fonseca Scholar Award and the Excellence of Diabetic Foot Award, multiple gold medal orations, prestigious Medical Council of India Award, each a testament for his unwavering commitment. Beyond his honors, his lives is like his true impact is the lives he has touched, the medical advancements he has pioneered, and the hope he has given for those battling with diabetes. So I request Dr. Vasant Kumar and Srinivas to join me, and please put your hands together for Professor Vijay Vishwanathan.
Can we have a loud round of applause, please?
My secretary has made a mistake. It's not the incoming national president, it's the national president 2025. So my secretary made the slides, I didn't have the time to look over it. So Dr. Vasant Kumar sir, Dr. Shashank Joshi left to the airport just now, and my delegates, my sincere dignitaries on the dais, off the dais. Thank you very much. I'll take only 10 minutes of your time, and I would like to first of all thank our Vice President of RSSDI, Dr. Srinivasa Murthy, who's the Vice President, and for inviting me and for giving me, bestowing this oration on me. Can I have the next slide, please? He asked me to talk on antimicrobial resistance. So this was not a part of the IWGDF guideline. Oh. No, diabetic foot has been traditionally neglected. It is considered the Cinderella of all the diabetic complications. You know, all of you know, must be knowing Cinderella's story, how she was ill-treated by her grandmother or the person who was looking after her. So diabetic foot is deserving a lot of importance, but it is the 5-year survival which is shown, which is equal to breast cancer, which is equal to, oh, I don't know. This is magic. So this is the Journal of American Podiatry in 2008 and is equal to lung cancer and breast cancer, cancers. However, diabetic foot gets the Cinderella of all the complications and is the most expensive complication. It's not the kidney, it's not the heart. You can change the heart, you can have bypass surgery and be done with it. But the foot will keep on, you have to fit and you keeping on walking on it. The secretary of Tamil Nadu RSSDI, Dr. Muralidharan, was talking a while ago in that hall that we have 220 feet to look after. So we have, Dr. Murli, you are right, absolutely. We have a lot to do in this space. Now, what you have to understand is the prevalence of diabetes is going to increase and the prevalence of diabetic foot disease is also going to increase. All the complications are going to increase. Nephropathy, retinopathy, everything is going to increase. And you can see the amputations are going to increase in India if you don't do something about it. And you don't need expensive gadgets to prevent an amputation. All that you need is very simple devices, your hands and your eyes, to examine the foot. Now the IWGDF guidelines, the topic, I'm going straight on to the topic, the antimicrobial resistance. This is the 2023 guidelines and the 2027 guidelines are going to be coming in 2027. So this is 2023 guidelines and assess all the diabetic foot ulcers using a classification. So you should assess all the diabetic foot ulcers. So as soon as the patient arrives, don't be in a hurry to operate. You should assess the diabetic foot. You can use the SINBAD classification. You can use the IWGDF, IDSA guidelines classification. Secondly, you hospitalize this patient if there is a serious infection. These are all not my recommendation. These are recommendations by a team of experts of 8 people who sat down and wrote the key recommendations for diagnosis of diabetic foot ulceration. Outpatient treatment is adequate for many moderate and mild infections. You don't have to admit. When you say admission to the patient, he is flabbergasted. He is very, very upset about it. So you don't hospitalize everybody you think of. Helpful diagnostic tests, the probe to bone test, the inflammatory markers can be done. You can do the PCT, but it's not done routinely. You do the ESR and you do the CRP if you can, and it's making a clinical diagnosis. So make a clinical diagnosis, assess the foot for diabetic foot wounds. The wounds are of ischemic origin, neuropathic origin, and as you saw in the previous picture, only these two, ischemic or neuroischemic or neuropathic ulcers, and you should use the classification. Don't hospitalize everybody, use the recommendation of the IWGDF. Do not treat the culture which you get from the outpatient. You should get it into the operation theatre if there's a serious infection and treat a tissue culture and take a tissue from the bone biopsy if you think of osteomyelitis, or a culture from the OT, not from the casualty. So you take a proper culture because that will represent which antibiotic you're going to give. So you can give empiric antibiotics. It's not a swab. It's not a swab. And you sample bone if needed. I don't know. Why not you operate this gadget? You operate it. 1 minute. 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 I'll say the next slide. I'm not able to. Yeah, that's easier. So sample bone, you do a bone biopsy if you think of osteomyelitis, because osteomyelitis is present in about 30% of people who have a foot infection. So you don't please forget to sample the bone. You can send it to a pathology department in your own hospital, or send a bone biopsy to the nearby hospital whom you're referring to. Do not forget the X-rays are as good as the MRI. Everybody does an MRI, CT angiograms. So do not forget the plain X-ray is as good if you're finished 4 weeks of the infection. It will show up in the X-ray. So you do not need a WBC scintigraphy or PET scan or MRI, which is 7,000 rupees. And a plain X-ray, digital X-ray is what is needed. A digital X-ray would cost only about 100 to 200 rupees. So I think it's very important to, this is all recommendations of the IWGDF in 2023, which was presented in Holland. Wound lacking purulence is uninfected. If you press the wound and you do not get infection, pus coming out of the wound, purulence, lacking purulence, or any manifestation of inflammation, it's uninfected. You do not have to admit the patient. If you have 2 or more manifestations of inflammation, purulence or erythema, tenderness, warmth or induration, it's a little serious infections. It's more serious than the first category, and it is a mild infection. But go on to the last one, infection in a patient with systemic toxicity or metabolic instability. Example, if the patient has fever, chills, tachycardia, hypotension, confusion, it's a very severe infection, and you should admit the patient and put them on IV antibiotics. The first category may not require a IV antibiotic. The second one may not require a IV antibiotic, but the third and fourth require a IV antibiotic. Now the wound biofilm is something which I'm going to talk to you about for 2 minutes, because biofilm is often neglected by the physicians and by the surgeons. So there is something called biofilm which is causing the wound to stop healing. So what is biofilm? Biofilm is nothing but produced by the microorganism. It's a protective covering for the wound. It's a group of organisms, microorganisms, embedded in a thick slimy layer of sugar, like glycocalyx, proteins or water produced by themselves. So they produce, these organisms produce a slimy layer which protects them from antibiotics. So you should remember that the antibiotic which you give, amoxicillin, clavulanic acid or whatever, piperacillin, tazobactam, which you give, is not reaching the tissues because of the biofilm. So the surgeon's scalpel, the IWGD wound healing group has found out, of all the modalities, the best modality to remove the biofilm is the scalpel used by the surgeon. The surgeon must get involved every day, and he must debride the biofilm, and he should remove the biofilm every day. Otherwise, the biofilm will form a covering over the wound, as I told you before. I'm searching for the... Yeah. So the biofilm will cover the wound, and it will prevent the antibiotics from reaching the wound, which is very bad. So this is the first step in the antimicrobial resistance, a topic given to me. Now, this is how the biofilm gets attached. It grows, it detaches, and the scalpel of the surgeon will help you to remove the biofilm if it's effectively done. So don't give it to the nurses. The wound of a diabetic foot should be treated by a surgeon. If he is not willing, change the surgeon. The surgeon must do it, not a nurse. It's not dressing that matters, it is the scalpel. And this has been shown by the IWGDF guideline. Now, this is a picture which we took during COVID. I wanted to tell you that in India, the scenario is different. We have a lot of, you must be imagining what this is. This is maggots, dirty maggots. These are not clean maggots which you find in the UK. These are dirty maggots. We debride it, we pour ethanol and all that, and kill the maggots, and we use a surgeon's scalpel, and we clean the wound, debride the wound, and we achieve good debridement, and then we do a skin grafting. This process took about, the patient came to us about 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks before this incident happened, and within 3 weeks had a skin graft. So the 3 weeks is the healing period. Now, modalities like HBOT and topical oxygen are useful. Adjuvants. I was present in the IWGDF guideline. So we did not recommend you investing in HBOT or topical oxygen or ozone therapy simply because it is expensive and not within the reach of everybody. There are centers like Ajit is having a center in HBOT in Trivandrum. There are centers, so we have put a conditional requirement for HBOT. But this is the algorithm given by Ali Foster. I'll finish in another 2 minutes, Srinivas, if it's a lunch break which is holding you. So this is the mechanical control. Any wound will heal if you adjust the mechanical control, if you do mechanical control, if you do a proper wound control with the scalpel of the surgeon, and you do a microbiological control, if you do a vascular control, feel the postertibial and antitibial, postertibial and dorsalis peris pulse, antitibial also can be felt now. Metabolic control, so we put all patients on a basal bolus insulin regimen, and education control, you tell him not to walk. An ulcer will not heal if a man walks on it. So mechanical control, education control are almost alike. This was the first paper from India which we published in 2002, looking at the pathogens. It was in JAPI, Journal of API, where we looked at the pathogens in diabetic foot infection in South India, in Tamil Nadu. And this is the overview of the IWGDF guideline 2023. It's a very busy slide, so I want you to focus only on this particular aspect. I'm not able to, yeah. Mild, moderate, and severe infection. So if you have a mild, moderate, or severe infection, you treat mild infection with as an outpatient treatment. Don't admit them. And if it's a severe infection, hospitalize the patient, give IV fluids, check the electrolytes, and so on and so forth. Consider obtaining blood cultures if the fever is there, and so on. So you should take into consideration. So these are the IWGDF ID. IDSA stands for Infectious Disease Society of America. They are the two leading organizations who have given guidelines for how to treat diabetic foot. So you can look at the IWGDF guideline. It is freely available, downloadable from the internet. You just put iwgdf.org, you will get all the 8 subdivisions of IWGDF classification. So if you have I'm just repeating the same point, how will you clinically classify infections is by these methods: severe, moderate, and mild infection. Mild infection, treat as outpatient. Don't scare the patient by admitting him, by severe, you have to admit the patient because the heart rate is high, he's got fever, he needs a debridement and so on. Lastly, in the last 2 minutes, I'll talk about superbugs in diabetic foot and what is the work which we're doing with Amrita Institute in Kochi, the phage therapy. These are the gram-negative bacteria which have superbugs. You can see them, you can read them, and the gram-positive bacteria which occurs. We are having 2 ongoing projects in the phage therapy because of the biofilm and because of the antibiotics resistance which is happening, superbugs which are happening. We are trying a phage therapy. Phage therapy is where it's prepared in Amrita Institute in Kochi and transported to Chennai, and we are applying it onto the wound. So we are doing an efficacy of a customized bacteriophage therapy to treat diabetic foot ulcers. It's an ongoing project. I can't tell you the full results. But we are seeing good results. The patients were infected with drug-resistant bacteria and was treated solely with our phages and standard care. We gave them standard care, we gave them offloading and so on. But in addition to our standard care, we also gave them the phage therapy. Now, bacteriophage therapy is a new approach to fight antibiotic resistance. If the antibiotics are not working because of the antimicrobial resistance or because of the biofilm, there are limited treatment options. And targeted therapy, it is targeted. The phage therapy is targeted towards the wound. And there's low risk of resistance and potential for high efficacy. So we're doing 2 studies. One is a clinical trial which is with Amrita, and one is with Amrita Institute, Dr. Geeta and Dr. Bipin Nair, and who are collaborating with us. And the second one is a on-target trial or something, like reverse trial, where we are looking at phage therapy as a phase 3. So I'd like to conclude by saying that infections are an important reason for admission. Infections are an important cause for amputation. We should treat the infection very effectively. I have shown you the mild, moderate, and severe infections. And if you don't hospitalize everybody and scare them, treat the severe infections in the hospital, but not the mild to moderate ones. Moderate ones, you can take a decision. In Italy, there was a study called a fast-track pathway, where they divided the patients in Rome into 3 groups. The one group was treated in the hospital where they came first. The second was they took some 2 weeks to refer. And third was a fast track. They were immediately the severe infection. They needed vascular assessment or whatever, and they were referred immediately. So they found that the mortality rates, it was a paper by DFoot International, but it was done in Italy, in Rome. And they found that those who were sent away faster, their mortality was lower because they had ischemic ulcers which were treated effectively by doing revascularization and so on. So I would urge you to look for infection. Neuropathy screening is very important, but screening for infections, classifying them according to IDSA or IWGDF is very important. And I think we have to save the legs, the foot of people with diabetes. And that would go a long way in preventing amputations. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Vijay. It was always expected. You have done some extraordinary work in the field, as it was mentioned by Dr. Shashank Joshi. And I hope you continue to do this work. I remember during the year when I was holding your position, you have done some extraordinary work which resulted in lot of nationwide awareness program. So thank you for giving this great oration. But my dear friends, I would also like to bring to your notice, this oration is in honor of Yellapragada Subbarao, who is a world-known, internationally known scientist and a biochemist who lived some 60 years back. He belongs to this region of our country. And for this information, because all of us have to be inspired, during those primitive years, Yellapragada Subbarao was a Telugu man who subsequently lived in Karnataka.
Discovered toxin, no?
Yes, he has discovered many things. One of them is he actually discovered the mechanism of ATP in making the muscle activity. And he is also responsible for the discovery of at least 2 drugs that I can mention, and you will be surprised. One is methotrexate to fight the cancer, and diethylcarbazine, you know how it is used for filariasis. So let's remember that great soul, and I congratulate you for delivering this oration in his honor. And I also congratulate the organizers to
For
appropriately giving this oration and also remembering that great soul. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, I think this session definitely needs a standing ovation. I would request all of you. Louder. As loud as possible. Thank you, everyone. I would request Dr. L. Srinivas Murthy sir and the chairperson give a memento to the speaker.